This is Rob Tubber for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Delighted to be joined as always by Adam Smith. We're here in New York. It's a lovely evening, Adam. How you doing?
It's a lovely evening, isn't it? Wonderful. A little tired off the plane, but fantastic setting, isn't it, to get fight week started? And yeah, it's really good, really relaxed, and everyone getting their chance to talk to the guys. And yeah, it's a brilliant week. I mean, it's been a terrific sort of boxing period last sort of couple of months, and Canelo Jacobs in Vegas, and obviously we had the Philadelphia and Kenny Taylor and Tevin Farmer there. We had down in Miami with Anthony Joshua, his training camp, Deontay Wilder fighting a week or so ago in Brooklyn. Yeah, it's been really busy over this side of the pond. Plenty back home as well. Josh Taylor becoming world champion, and then Devin Haney's performance out here, so sort of flip-flopping around. And yeah, this is a massive week though. Huge week. Anthony Joshua, American debut, and Madison Square Garden. It's the perfect place for him to showcase his skills. And listening to Andy Ruiz Jr. do one of his interviews over there, he's so calm and so relaxed. And listen, he's got a massive opportunity. People are writing him off, but he's a good fighter. And AJ's going to have to be absolutely on his game, because there's all the talk of the Wilders and the Furies and everything that lies ahead, but he's got to take care of business. And he's in a new environment with different people around him. Obviously the same team who've been sort of close in Sheffield and close in Miami, but he's in a different place here, staying, and little things like that can affect fighters. So it'll be interesting to see how he deals with the whole build-up to Saturday night, and then how he deals with the speed that Andy Ruiz brings, and the heart and the determination and the style, which is a bit different to what he's used to. But he should get through, AJ.
Let's just talk about, you make an interesting point about obviously the main event, which we'll come on to, but as you mentioned, Sky has been very, very action-packed recently. Last week? Was it last week? I don't know. We've both got off the plane this morning, so it's probably afforded us a little bit of leeway. But Deontay Wilder, spectacular against Dominic Breazeale in Brooklyn. Has that kind of given us a nice little lead-in to this fight this Saturday? AJ potentially under a little bit of pressure to follow that performance from Wilder?
I think it's given us a great lead-in, yeah, absolutely. It's exactly what I said as soon as I got back off the plane in London from the Wilder fight. I think the manner of victory from the Bronze Bomber was sensational, and I think he needed it after a year where he'd had that real sort of toe-to-toe battle with Luis Ortiz, and obviously the fight with Tyson Fury, where most people, including myself, believe that he lost that. He needed something. He needed it, and he said he would. He said he'd destroy Dominic Breazeale, and he did it in emphatic fashion, and it was an incredible punch, and it shows that he is the huge puncher of the heavyweights. And yeah, it's what he needed. It's a highlight reel knockout. He also told us all week that he wants to fight Anthony Joshua, that he believes it will happen. And I think it does lead into this week beautifully. And also it does put a little bit of pressure on Joshua. I don't think he needs to go out and necessarily win in a round or even 2 or 3, but I think he needs to go and put a performance on. And I think that's something that he intends to do. And, it's likely he will. He should have the tools and technical ability to be able to deal with Andy Ruiz. But having said that, Ruiz has got nothing to lose. He's had 6 odd weeks notice for it, coming off a good performance against Dimitrenko, and what an opportunity for him. We've seen so many banana skins, so many slip-ups, so many accidents happening in the heavyweight division, littered through history, when big fights are talked about, and big fights aren't made. Things can happen like this. So Anthony will have to be on his absolute A game to be able to deal with Ruiz. But yeah, I think there is a bit of pressure on him now.
I think the general feeling is that Andy Ruiz is probably on par with Jarrell Miller. Some say slightly better, some say slightly worse, but generally speaking around the same sort of level of heavyweight. But those same people would also say that the Jarrell Miller fight potentially would have been a bigger fight because of Jarrell Miller's nature, kind of his brash, outspoken nature. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm disappointed that, obviously, like everybody is, that Jarrell Miller failed the drugs tests and was out the fight. He's only got himself to blame, and there's no place for that in boxing. So the right thing happened. We've got a new opponent. I'm very disappointing with all the time and money and everything spent on the promotion first time around. But yeah, look, Jarrell Miller's never fought for a world title. Andy Ruiz has. Out in New Zealand, it was very close, losing to Joe Parker so narrowly. And if it was at home in America, he probably would have got the decision. So in many ways, he is a better opponent than Jarrell Miller. I don't know. Look, we don't know because at the moment now we've just got to assess what Andy Ruiz could do with Joshua. But only ever that one loss. Very strong, very determined, good body puncher, quick hands. He'll come to win. He'll come to really give it everything. I think with Jarrell, we don't quite know how good he is. Whereas Andy Ruiz, I think we do know he's decent. He doesn't look the best, but that doesn't matter if he gets the job done, and he's got the job done so many times throughout his career. Listen, he's got nothing to lose. He's a big underdog, but he seems really relaxed, and he seems happy. A happy fighter is a dangerous fighter, and AJ knows that. But everything I've heard, I saw Joshua in camp in Sheffield and in Miami, and everything that I've heard since is he's in great shape. He's in a perfect place, and I think everybody fully expects him to defend his world titles and start really trying to ramp up that Wilder match, or maybe even Tyson Fury, because those are the fights that the fans want to see. But listen, any fight that AJ's involved in is exciting, and everybody's got to watch Saturday night, not just for AJ, but for the huge card as well. Callum Smith, Katie Taylor, Josh Buatsi, Josh Kelly, Tommy Cord in a great fight with Chris Algieri. It's a wonderful night. It's AJ's debut at the Garden, and it's going to be a real happening.
Let's just talk about the undercard. You've mentioned a lot of fighters there who are the A side of the card. Callum Smith is fighting Hassan Mdam. Hassan Mdam is somebody who's kind of been around at a good level at middleweight. I took a little bit of flack from Eddie and Joe Gallagher by saying that Callum Smith is essentially a light heavyweight who crams himself into super middleweight. I didn't think that was wildly out of line. They did. That fight's drawn a lot of ire. I mean, Callum Smith is somebody who, he's Ring Magazine champion, he's world champion, he won the World Boxing Super Series on that great night in Jeddah. Obviously, not between us, we would have preferred to see it over here. But anyway, and now he's come back fighting a middleweight after 9 months out of the ring, Ring Magazine champion. It's not ideal for somebody who's considered by many to be the number one super middleweight in the world. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think he is the number one super middleweight in the world, Callum. He's been lost on Sky screens for a while because he obviously went off and took part in the World Series and did brilliantly. That win over George Groves was fantastic. I think a lot of people doubted whether he could do it. I've always liked Callum, down to earth, nice guy out of the ring, works so hard, and huge talent inside it. All those first round knockouts early on in his career, which got us talking, including the one over Rocky Fielding, and English, British, Commonwealth, European. He's done everything the right way, Callum, and I'm so glad he's a world champion. He's thoroughly deserved it. I'd love to see him have a big fight at Anfield, and someone like, if he could tempt a Canelo or Golovkin or a big name over, it would be amazing. But look, I'm just pleased to have him back on Sky. I think he's a huge addition to the card. It's fantastic that he's going to be displaying his talents. It's a big stage for him. Again, he should get through Hassan Mdam because, as you said, he's a middleweight. But he's tough. He had a good win over Martin Murray, and he's been around a long time. Very good amateur. Underrated as a pro, I think, but he's held world titles before, and he'll like a bit like Andy Ruiz, he'll give it absolutely everything he knows. But I expect Callum to come through.
Are we kind of seeing in Callum Smith I won't call it the double-edged sword, because you've seen Alexander Usyk come out of the World Boxing Super Series, but he would have moved up to heavyweight, obviously had that fight with Tony Bellew. But we see kind of the double-edged sword with Callum with regards to, it's no secret that the World Boxing Super Series are very generous with their purses. Coming out of the series, is it kind of particularly for Callum, somebody who's just had a child as well, so I'm sure he wants to make sure his family financially secure. Is he in a position where potentially those paychecks that he was getting in the World Boxing Super Series for whatever reason are potentially eluding him at this stage of his career coming out of that tournament?
Possibly, I don't know. I'm not sure what he got, but I know he did well out of that. I mean, look, if you put him in against a Canelo or Golovkin, would it be a box office fight? Absolutely. So, if it's back home in Liverpool, it would be, and we'd have a great card at Anfield. That would be fantastic. But the trouble with Callum, as I said, he hasn't been on Sky Sports for a long time. We had him for a long time, and he went off to the Super Series. So, what we've tended to do with the likes of Ricky Hatton and Carl Froch and David Hay and the other guys, and Anthony Joshua, they're on Sky Sports for a number of times before they became box office fighters, where the real money is made for them back home. So it's difficult for Callum. He's got to fight regularly. I think he's got to fight regularly, and he's got to fight regularly on Sky. But there'll be there'll be big paydays ahead for him, not just in the Super Series, I'm sure about that. But he's got to try and tempt the likes of Canelo and Golovkin, etc., into a ring. If you look at those, they're middleweights, really. And I agree with you, actually. I think he is a light heavyweight, or certainly he will become a light heavyweight of the future. And I thought that for the last 2 or 3 years, that, as good a super middleweight as he is, I think he'll be an even better light heavyweight. So how long he'll stay at super middleweight, I don't know. But you'd have thought that for Canelo and Golovkin, that jump to light heavyweight's a bit much. So he could be a bit too big physically for his own good at the moment. And also the likes, he's lost to Gale, he's lost Groves, he's lost Carl Froch. There's a lot of fighters that he could have fought. So, it's Chris Eubank Jr. who's sort of tied to ITV, or trying to persuade one of the other guys. And but if he gets a big fight with Canelo or Golovkin, he's obviously got to take that. I think I just like Callum to fight regularly and start building a real base again, because we've missed him.
Elsewhere on the card, we've got Josh-Ruiz, touted by many as one of the kind of leading prospects, not only in UK boxing but in world boxing. It's fighting Marco Antonio Periban, who hasn't fought in 2 years. Career super middleweight, stopped by James DeGale 5 years ago. Is that the fight that Josh-Ruiz needs at this stage of his career to develop?
I think Joshua Boatsi is developing at a huge rate. I think he could go in with much tougher opponents. I'm not a matchmaker, I'm not the promoter, but he's fought recently. He won the British title. He's looked terrific. He's looking electric in many people's views. He's the best prospect out there, certainly from British shores. So look, it's a showcase for Josh Boatsi. Let's not kid ourselves. This is a chance for him to show his skills to the American audience, and I'm sure he will. He's in with a guy who's been tough and who's been around. But yeah, Boatsi should deal with him.
Another fight that I know you're very much looking forward to is the undisputed lightweight world championship bout between Katie Taylor and Delphine Persoon.
Possibly the one I'm most looking forward to.
Just talk about that fight. I mean, Katie has kind of been a whirlwind since she's come onto Sky. She's really entertained, really captivated kind of people who weren't necessarily fans of female boxing, have become fans of female boxing. We've seen her here today. She's very mild-mannered, very polite. You wouldn't look at her and see decorated amateur about to become undisputed champion of the world.
She's amazing. Katie Taylor is a phenomenon. She's a one-off. AJ sells to 80,000, 90,000 at Wembley and the Principality, and you got to pinch yourself. You've got to enjoy him while he's here. I think the same with Katie Taylor. You've got to enjoy her while she's here. She was the best amateur ever. Phenomenal story. Wonderful role model, and she's just done everything asked of her as a professional, with razor sharp speed, entertaining us with her boxing skills and her tenacity and her exciting style that she mixes up. She wants to fight. She's great to watch. And look, it's the last leg. Can she become undisputed on Saturday night? I think it's an incredible achievement if she can. Having turned pro fairly recently, really, it's all gone at a hairpin rate. And listen, it's brilliant. And she's got a tough fight in Delphine Persoon, who hasn't lost for many years. Reigning champion, many defences. But she hasn't fought on this sort of stage. She rarely comes out of Belgium. I think only once to Switzerland. So it's a big ask for her. She's kept Katie waiting, and I think that, look, it's a tough fight, but I think Katie Taylor's got a golden chance to become undisputed lightweight champion, and she would be certainly in mine and most other people's top 5 pound for pound fighters, male or female, worldwide. I mean, she's incredible. How can you not like her?
Okay, well, just final word, because it's starting to wind down here. It's seemingly been a very long afternoon here.
We're starting to wind down, aren't we?
I think we are starting to wind down. Not one of our best, but still hope people enjoy it. Final word on the main event. Anthony Joshua, if all being well, comes past Andy Ruiz. In your role as head of Sky Sports Boxing, what fight would you like to see him next? Is it the undisputed fight with Deontay Wilder? Would you like to see him box Tyson Fury? Would you like to see the rematch with Dillian Whyte? What would you like to see this year with Anthony Joshua? All being well, and he comes through Andy Ruiz this Saturday.
All being well, all of those I'd like to see. Realistically, I spoke to AJ down in Miami. He wants to fight Deontay Wilder. I spoke to Deontay Wilder 2 weeks ago in Brooklyn. He wants to fight AJ. They want to get it on. It's a massive fight. They could do 2, they could do 3. My gut feeling is that they'll both have fights before that. I think that Wilder will probably fight Ortiz or Kawanaki, excuse me, in September. Joshua will fight either here or back home at the Principality, maybe against a Luis Ortiz or a Kubrat Pulev, or maybe a Alexander Usyk or Dillian. Dillian obviously has got a huge fight of his own on July the 20th. He's right in the mix. But yeah, the fight I would like to see happen certainly within the next year and being made is AJ and Wilder. I think Tyson Fury's gone off and to do his own thing. I'd obviously love to see Fury and Joshua. I'd love to see Fury and Wilder again. I think these are the fights the fans want to see. Those 3 in a merry-go-round. Add Dillian White to the pot. 1 or 2 others. Chuck Joe Joyce in a year or 2. Daniel Dubois coming through. There's so many other good fighters. Alexander Usyk, we can't wait to see at heavyweight. Michael Hunter. But I think the world wants to see AJ and Wilder. I think that's, fight fans talk about it all the time. I think both fighters want it. Get them in a room, Rob. Let's see if they can chat it out and come out and tell their respective teams to actually get it done. Or does it need all 20 of them to be in a room? I don't know. But I think it needs Joshua and Wilder to be in there. And I really think there's a lot of want on both sides now for the fight to happen. And we just got to hope that there's no slip-ups in between and it can be made. But my feeling is it won't be this year, but hopefully there'll be 2 announced for next year if they can make it happen. And that's not really my role, but I do know that both of them want it. So fingers crossed.
Okay, well, Adam Smith, thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social. Always a pleasure to catch up with you. Go and get some sleep.
Thank you. Cheers, Annie.